Into the semi-finals we go now over in the African Cup of Nations. Which of the 4 countries will go all the way through to the final? Of course, we're going to take a look at that and much more next. Once again, another preview video today. We look forward to the semi-finals, that's right, of this year's African Cup of Nations. Which of the remaining 4 nations will, of course, go to the final, and which, of course, of those 2 nations will go through and win the pissing thing. We're going to take a look at all of it in a second. Of course, big shout out to my VIPs. They are the patrons. You know who you are. And again, if you're new, where have you been? Smash your old subscribe button. Your one-stop shop for the AFCON continues. That's right. So let's bring it back up to date. Of course, where we are with, of course, our picks. We did do a quarter-final prediction video. If you caught it, brilliant. If you didn't, where the heck were you guys? Get involved with the channel. Subscribe. Your one-stop shop for international football is here. We, of course, will be looking forward to the Euros and the Copa America in the summer. We might even do a little bit of Olympic football. But anyway, let's talk about the results of these AFCON quarterfinals. It was Nigeria. It was Angola, of course. I went with a 2-0 win for Nigeria. Guess what, folks? I got one pretty much close to the money. 1-0 win it was for Nigeria. They'll go through to the semi-finals. Meanwhile, South Africa against Cape Verde. I went with a 2-1 win for the Bafana. And guess what? They got through on penalties. Bit of a touch and go with the old penalties, but they got there. And they, of course, will join Nigeria in a beastly, nice-looking semi-final, of course, in this side of the bracket. Let's go to the other side, of course, as we look back at, of course, Ivory Coast, the hosts, of course, in this tournament. They took on Mali. That's right. 2-1 win was the final score there. I went with the 1-0 win for the host there. 2-1 win it was, of course, not too shabby on me as well. So 3 for 3 on this one. And then, of course, we have DR Congo against Guinea, of course. I went with the 1-1 draw on that one. And, of course, DR Congo to go through on penalties. And guess what? They are through. Might not have taken penalties, but they came through 3-1 in the end to set up a semi-final. That's right. But, of course, those are the last round of picks. We are going to look forward to those semi-finals. But before that, let's take a look at how we got to this stage then, of course, shall we? All right then, folks, a quick recap of those group stages before we jump into the future of this competition. That's right. So Equatorial Guinea, they, of course, topped the group over in Group A. Nigeria were alongside them. Ivory Coast, despite having a really shit competition, they actually made it through as one of the third-place best team. Zoom in a little bit there. Of course, into Group B, Cape Verde, of course, they were fantastic in the group stages, ousting the likes of Egypt and Ghana, of course, to go through to this knockout stage as well, but they came out as group winners. Egypt joined them alongside them. Ghana, of course, crushing out as well. Senegal, of course, top Group C. Alongside Cameroon, Guinea did very, very well to get to where they did in the quarterfinals. Gambia, unfortunately, went home in the early days. Into Group D, Angola, top of the charts in their respective group. Burkina Faso also joined them as runners-up. Mauritania ousting Algeria as the third-place team in that one. Goodness gracious me. Group E, see Mali, of course, they of course had a great run. South Africa had an even better run down into the semi-finals. Namibia crashing out in Group E, and then finally Group F. Morocco were a bit of a shambles, weren't they, in the knockouts? DR Congo still here, of course, into those semi-finals, and Tanzania crashing out. So those, of course, were the group stages, and of course, we are then presented with the illustrious knockout. Presented with the illustrious knockout stages, and here we go. Quick recap of those illustrious knockout stages. We had Nigeria against Cameroon, of course, Angola against Namibia, Cape Verde against Mauritania, of course, Morocco against South Africa. On the other side, we had, testing my knowledge here, we had Mali against Burkina Faso, we had Senegal, the champions against the host Ivory Coast, tasted when that one was as well, Egypt against DR Congo, and Equatorial Guinea up against Guinea themselves, of course. We progressed. Of course, Nigeria got through, so did Angola. They set up a quarter-final with Cape Verde and South Africa doing their business as well. On the other side, we had Mali, Ivory Coast, and DR Congo against Guinea, of course. And that, of course, will set us up to where we are right here, right now, as Nigeria, the Super Eagles, will take on South Africa, Bafana, in, of course, the first of the semi-finals. So let's get into it. All right, then, folks, this match will take place on Wednesday, the 7th of February, of course, over at the Stade de la Pris, over in the Ivory Coast. Now, these two sides have played each other 11 times. 2004, we've got 6 wins for Nigeria, just 1 win for South Africa, 4 draws. Of course, the biggest win for Nigeria was a 4-0 win, scored 18 goals in those 11 games, 1.64 goals a game. game up against Bafana Bafana. 2-0 win, their biggest and only win in recent times, scoring 8 goals in 11 games, 0.73 goals a game. They're on 67% form for them at the moment. Of course, heading into this one, just one defeat of the last 6 up against the Nigeria side, who, of course, unbeaten run of 5 games now, 75% form for them, winning 4 on the bounce, of course, heading into this one. Now, these two sides did last play back in July 2019 in the quarter-final stage of the AFCON. Nigeria coming out on top, and, of course, South Africa's one and only win. Where was that? That was back in 2017. It was in the African Nations qualification phase. Of course, so far we've seen the Nigerians come through pretty cleanly. Actually, concede just the 1 goal all tournament. That was in the opening game against Equatorial Guinea. Meanwhile, South Africa pretty much airtight themselves, despite losing a couple of goals against Mali in the opening game. They did concede 1 against Cape Verde last time around, but pretty airtight at the back as well. Goals coming from Lookman. He's the top goal scorer for Nigeria. Turba Swane, he's got a couple of goals for South Africa. The odds right here right now, we've got Nigeria 7-4 on for the victory. The red hot favourites. 13-5 is the draw, which of course will mean penalties and more. 6-1 is your Bafana Bafana on this one. What have I gone for this? I've actually gone for a 2-0 win for the Super Eagles. I think they're going to have too much to in the tank here, of course. I think they're the squad is more detailed, more equipped to, of course, handle the pressures of this one, because the pressure of a nation will be on South Africa. In fact, I think I actually will take those words back. I think Nigeria got more expectation on their shoulders, which could be the benefit of South Africa. I think the Nigerians are thinking now this is theirs to lose, and if they can get to a final after a bit of a bumpy start, of course, and potentially be a champion once again, I think the weight of a nation is going to be on their shoulders. But I just think they're going to manage that well and get through Bafana Bafana, who are just happy to be here. They were expected to get knocked out in the group stages, but here they are. So unfortunately, this is where they'll bow out, but Nigeria will go through. But who will join them, of course, in the other side of the bracket? Of course, we have the hosts, Ivory Coast, up against DR Congo, who have been a breath of fresh air in this competition. Now, these two sides will lock horns on the 7th of Feb as well. Of course, Ivory Coast and DR Congo played each other 6 times in 2014, 3 for Ivory Coast, 1 win for DR Congo, and 2 draws. Of course, the biggest win for the host there, 3-1 win, scoring 13 goals in 6 games, 2.17 goals a game on average. DR Congo was the biggest win, 4-3 win. That's their only win, scoring 9 goals in those 6 games, 1.50 goals a game. They're on 58% form. DR Congo unbeaten in the last 5. Of course, Ivory Coast, 67% form for them right now. Again, just astonishing to be here at this stage, winning 4 of the last 6. Of course, these two sides did lock horns last time, back in January 2023. It was a 0-0 draw. That was in the DR Congo. Of course, over the last 3, it's been 1-1, lost 1, and drawn 1 over the course of these 3 sides. Let's take a look back. Of course, Ivory Coast's journey, opening up with a 2-0 win against Guinea-Bissau, losing to Nigeria, getting stuffed by Equatorial Guinea, going to penalties against Senegal, dragging a little bit further against Mali as well. So they've really dragged themselves through it. But they are here into the semi-finals with a shot at their final. Standing in the way is DR Congo, of course, opened up with a 1-1 draw against Zambia. They then picked up a 1-1 draw against Morocco, and then finally a 0-0 draw against Tanzania. Penalties was, of course, the answer for DR Congo against Egypt, and then, of course, they took care of business against Guinea in normal time. 3-1 win. Goals, though, coming from Ivory Coast. They've got a whole host of goal scorers with 1 to the name. Frank Kessie, Simon Adiengra got a goal, but the main man for DR Congo is Yon Wissa. 2 goals so far, and a whole handful. I've got 1 at the moment. 11-10 is your Ivory Coast, 16-5 is your DR Congo, 2-1 is the draw here. Of course, I'm going to go with a victory for the hosts here, 3-2 win. I think I'm going to go goal bonanza on this one, which will set up a final of Nigeria versus the Ivory Coast. I think that's the one we kind of really want. But if we want to take a look at the overall odds between these all 4 nations that remain in this competition, we have South Africa. They are their underdogs, 8-1. DR Congo 5-1. The Ivory Coast are 2-1, and Nigeria currently stand 11-10 favourites. Of course, that's for me. What about you guys? Let me know who you think is going to go through to the final, and maybe just maybe who do you think is going to win the whole pissing thing? Down below in the comments. Of course, we'll see you soon for the next one. But until then, guys and gals, we're donezoed.